Alrighty, welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades Cheesesteaks, joined by myself, Dakota, and Tim. Welcome back. It's been a bit of time, but glad to have you back.
The dynamic duo have been on pause for way too long.
We,
It's
we have,
been
we have.
my beautiful bearded friend. It's been too long since I've seen you last.
Yeah.
But no better way to bring us back together than our famed and I think our favorite. I don't know about you. I don't want to speak for you, but I think our
mm,
favorite segment when we do the top 10.
I do enjoy, our weekly NFL recaps, and then obviously like different playoffs and March Madness. That's all fun. But yeah, the top tens, we can like shit talk each other, and it's always a comedy show. So I do enjoy our
This
top
one
tens the
I like
most.
I like the best because usually we've been my God, how long me and you have been talking about football, debating and dissecting Eagles games. I mean, even doing rankings for like 12 years, like almost much longer
Started
than this
what
podcast has
like
ever
in
happened.
back in like middle school on the school bus, and then in
Oh yeah.
freshman year in the our writing class at community college because
Oh yeah.
our
Well,
teacher was
that
terrible.
was it's amazing because when I look back at those years at Bucks, I was like, I remember more about our top 10 debates than I do about anything I've actually learned in class.
I think our notes, we had more notes in our like top tens like and like stats and stuff than we did like actual like literature and English notes.
And to be
So
fair, creative writing, these top 10 are more relevant to my life now than creative writing is. So, maybe we were onto something there.
it's possible. It's
But
definitely possible.
I think I'm excited. I mean, we've talked about this beforehand. We're going to start with the in the ground DNs or hand on the ground DNs, and this one is I think always the most confusion, highly
Yeah.
debatable one. It's just like a position that you could go either way on a lot of things, but there's so many good players, edge, DNs. It's hard to do a top 10 on just the broad spectrum. So we
Yeah.
had to split it up this time.
Yeah, last year we did just edge and combined like outside backers and defensive ends, hand in the ground, like you said. So that left the door open for a lot of players who didn't get, to be shouted out, so to speak. So I think this helps like break it down a little better. And yeah, so this will be our first of the year, our fourth year doing the
Crazy.
top tens
Crazy. We're having a whole high school career
where
in podcasting already.
where
We're on our
where it
senior
all
year.
started. Senior year, yeah, it's
Wild.
crazy.
But I think this was the right call because I mean we're gonna argue, we're gonna complain, we're gonna differ and debate. Might as well just keep it neutral so we don't have to debate and argue over, oh, this is a stand-up guy, this is edge, hand in the ground, edge rusher, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll add beauty for before brain, so I'll start us off.
Oh.
I'm I'm gonna go with, and you know what,
Hold on,
this one
are we
I
doing honorable mentions?
oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay, okay.
I don't skip it. I don't skip around.
I only have one this
Uh,
time around. Not
I'm
not five
surprised. You
like
usually have
normal.
five. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with two, and this one excites me in
Mm,
a way. I mean, I don't
okay.
have either of them breaking the top 10, so it kind of makes me sad, but I don't think I have either of them breaking the top 10 because of each other. They kind of played off each other so well that in a way they were, taken away from, they're both rotational guys rotating with themselves.
Okay.
So my 12th guy, I went with the old standard veteran that we've grown to love, Mr. Brandon Graham. And
Hmm.
then we're following him right up at number 11. We go with the sweaty man himself, and I'm going with Josh Sweat.
Hmm.
And I think
Okay.
really the only reason I don't have either of them in the top 10 is I don't see either of them really as like a three down start, play every down kind of player, mostly because they rotate with each other. But they were both dominant last year. I mean, Graham had a resurging year. Sweat made his presence felt multiple times. Playing
Hmm.
across Reddick, I think benefited both of them, and playing in a defense with the secondary the Eagles had. But all in all, the year the Eagles had, these guys were two beneficiaries and, you know, causes of the success. So I
Yeah.
was happy with both of them. Kind of surprised by, how successful they're, mostly with Graham, find the fountain of youth one more year, and I hope he keeps it going. But yeah, I'm starting off with two Eagles in my honorable mention, which is amazing
Okay.
because I feel like we naturally always bump up Eagles players whenever we do this.
Yeah. I didn't think to mention that, but I'll have two honorable mentions now.
Oh, look at
Um,
you. Okay. Oh.
yeah, learning from you sometimes, but
Just like Dakota,
uh,
just come unprepared and just pulling things out of his butt as we go.
well, because we had to redo this list like 50 times because we couldn't decide who was an edge and who was a DN because you play in one system, go to another team, and now you're in a different position, but you still play the same position. So who knows? But um, so yeah, obviously Brandon Graham, one of my honorable mentions. I couldn't put him in the top 10 just because, like you said, he was didn't really start. He was more rotational, and at his age with that injury, like he'll never really be, an every down starter anymore, I don't think. But phenomenal leader, like beyond anything else. And like he had first time he had, I think, over double digit sacks in his career.
It's
So
amazing.
great season for him.
Amazing that he did that in like what his 14th year. He's
Yeah,
in the perfect system. He's on a contending
he is.
team
Yeah.
where he doesn't have to play every snap.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think it helps Sweat too. It's a perfect combination. That's why I wanted to lead off with both of them.
Yeah. And then my other one, this is a this guy is tough because he definitely has the talent, but I just feel like he hasn't been elite in a couple years. And even now that they have some better pieces on that defense, he still is kind of disappointing at times, which is fine for us because I hate them. Um, but I got Demarcus Lawrence, honorable mention. I put him at number 11.
Okay.
I think he's too talented to be not as great as he's been the last 2 years. Um, Especially after he did all that shit talking against the Eagles, and then Jalen Hurts made him look silly and juked him out and
Oh yeah.
ran
Yeah.
up the scoreboard on that. Oh, Dallas defense. But
Yeah. It's just an unstoppable force. He's a system quarterback or whatever he said.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But a good player, definitely. And he had a time when he was in the top tens, but last 2 years or so, I think he's kind of dropped off, and I think he's over 30 now. So, but
I mean, he's been eclipsed by his own teammate.
oh yeah, Mike
It
Parsons comes in, and he's already the best player on that defense. So
yeah, Demarcus Lawrence too. Yeah, he's old news. But I listen, uh, classic me, starting with the Eagles and you going with the Cowboy immediately. It's good to see where your favoritism lies.
oh god, I
But
said Brandon Graham.
I gotta say, this one I'll start off with my number 10 because this one excites me because I know there's a 0.5% chance that you have him in your top 10.
Oh, I'm excited
I'm gonna
then.
go with a young guy that I know you already didn't even consider or didn't care about, but a young guy who been solid so far. Eight sacks the first year he was in the league. This past year he had seven. He's
Okay.
on his way. I'm actually really excited to see what he does this year. I think he's in for a breakout year. He's going to play on a defense now that is now loaded up on the defensive front. Christian Wilkins got signed to a big extension. This is going to be the full season with
Uh,
Bradley Chubb. I
are we sure he's not an edge rusher? Because I considered putting him on my list.
well, for this moment, he's a D end, hand in the ground.
Okay. Okay.
this is we've been talking for a while about guys that might have been this, could have been that, blah blah blah. I didn't even consider asking you because I was like, there's no way you even consider putting him on this list because he hasn't played in the league for 8 years. But I got Jalen Phillips from Miami Dolphins, a guy who I think is really about to
Yeah,
kick the door in. I
I like
really
him.
think he's about to make some plays. I like him on that defense. They obviously got Ramsey. Bradley Chubb's going to play a full season. Um, he's going to get his chances. I think they're going to, as long as Tua's brain stays in one spot, I think they're going to score a lot of points, and I think their pass rushers are going to get a lot of chances. So I like Phillips. I think he's 10. I got him 10. I got him 10 now, but I think he's going to be much higher when we do this list next year.
Yeah, I considered him, and then I was watching some highlights, and I was like, oh, sometimes he's standing up, sometimes his hands on the ground. Is he edge or is he the end? But I could throw him in as honorable mention. I do think he's going to be a really good player, and especially I forget that they have Bradley Chubb. It's just so random that
Most
he
people
went
do.
there. But
Most people do.
yeah, but Wilkins is great, and they have probably this, if not the best, one of the top best corner tandems. So they're they're
He's in a good situation to really kick the door down.
yeah, and
He's looked good so far.
he's that high motor edge DN kind of guy you like on your team. Like I saw plays where he was sprinting across the field to make a tackle, so he's going to be a good player.
I think, I mean, if you want to give him a knock, he is, I mean, a knock and like, a praise at the same time. He is a pass rush specialist. Doesn't really do too much outside of that. Like, I don't think he's gonna do anything on the run game. He can't cover anyone, but he just, if you need to get to the quarterback, that's your guy. He's just
Mm.
one of those players. He just rushes off the edge and just finds his way there. He's super athletic. I remember when he came out of Miami, he did all the measurables. He's one of those, combine superstar guys. But I'm always, looking forward, forward to the future. Always one step ahead of you. This is one of those picks where he is going to blow up this year.
All right, fair enough. So my number 10, sticking with classic Dakota of you know,
So here we go.
prove me wrong type of players, but I think he had a really good rookie season. And if I had told you an NFL defender had 3 interceptions in a year, you wouldn't have thought
Wow,
you wouldn't have thought he was 6'7", 265 pounds. So
wow,
I get Aiden Hutchinson here, number 10 from the Detroit Lions, number one overall pick in his rookie year. Played all 17 games, 9.5 sacks, 52 combined tackles, and the 3 interceptions is crazy because, like, to me
that's
that
beautiful.
means
Yeah,
A, he's being in the right spot at the right time, but he's also like very aware of what's going on. Um, so I 15 QB hits too. That's pretty solid. Um, did
I'm proud of you.
he I think he came in second in defensive rookie of the year votings. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think he's got a
yeah.
bright future, and that Detroit defense all of a sudden looks like it could be a solid, part of that team because their offense is good. So we'll see how they go. But Aiden Hutchinson at number 10.
I'm proud of you. You've turned a leaf. I'm happy to see it. I have him on my list, of course. I mean,
Okay.
we'll see him very shortly. Normally
Okay.
this is like, he's a top five guy that you have now, but no, I have him coming up very closely, and I agree with you. The 3 interceptions is something else. Fun fact, he had more interceptions than all-pro cornerback Patrick Surtain and all-pro cornerback Sauce Gardner. So really
That
puts
is
in
crazy.
perspective. And the
Yeah.
Lions, I mean, their defense was a train wreck, and somehow he still managed to perform. Like, I know we were talking about Phillips, who I think he's a young guy in a great situation, plays across from Bradley Chubb and Christian
hmm
Wilkins, and he's got Ramsey and Howard in his secondary, where Hutchinson doesn't have much going on in the Lions. They made some nice pickups, but I still don't think they're that great of a team. But uh, I have no grievances with you at number 10 because I got him coming up very shortly.
Okay.
Before that, though, now this I'm curious to see where you have this guy because this one he's kind of an anomaly.
Okay.
Talent wise, talent wise, he's when he's on, he's probably a top five guy. We've had him on our rankings before and probably, in the top five, but he's so sporadic when it comes to health. And this year he was non-existent. I think he played 4 games. I mean, his biggest moment came when he threw his helmet in the ground and threw a hissy fit in the playoff game that they lost in disgusting fashion. So on a down year, he's still top 10 talent, but in a down year, I got Joey Bosa at number 9.
Really?
He listen,
Wow.
this was not his year. I think the Chargers,
Wow.
because you know what? I'll tell you this.
That's
This is my biggest
interesting.
problem. This is my biggest problem. He's got the talent in the world, but he's an
He
injury
was,
concern and
I'll say he was injured most of the year.
pretty much all the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's just I can't ignore these injuries things. Going off last year, like this, he's so inconsistent, and this year was just even worse. I, leave a bad taste in my mouth, maybe, but the way they lost in the playoffs this season was a complete failure, if you're asking me. I mean, the Chargers and their 3 fans, it has to be a
Wow.
complete disaster. But yeah, no, talent wise, I know he's a top five guy. He's been a top five guy when we did these rankings before, but it's a tough year, man. There was a lot of good edge defenders, a lot of good young guys on the list. But I think after the year he had, his spotty injury history, I need to see him do, bump it up. It reminds me of Michael Thomas when he got hurt, and he was obviously all worldly. The first injury, not the second one with I don't even know what happened there, but when he missed the first year, and we had him at I think I want to say unanimously we had him number 10. Obviously a number one
hmm
talent the year before, but then he missed the whole year. Bosa is kind of in the same situation. He didn't miss all the year, but he did miss pretty much all of it up besides like 4 games. So yeah, controversial, sure, but I'm going with Joey Bosa here.
That's almost like when you put Derwin James at number 10. We're in similar territory here of bonehead decisions, but
I Chargers and injuries, they don't
I
they don't do it for me.
I understand the injury concerns. I have him quite a bit higher on my list just because of pure talent and production, but I do agree it is a concern to be wary of. But
Listen, outlook matters a lot in these rankings, and I think I
okay.
like the outlook on some of these other guys better.
All right. So my number nine is someone we briefly touched on, who I think follows in a similar footsteps as one of the older veterans on his team, and the fact that they may not produce like the best numbers, but they are a consistent player, and they do a lot of like behind the scenes work on defense, I would say. So I got Josh Sweat of the Philadelphia Eagles in my
Oh,
number
nice.
nine here.
Good to see.
I was a
I'm
little
proud of you.
yeah, I initially didn't think I would get to put him on, and then I was looking into the numbers a little more. I mean, the previous year he was his first Pro Bowl year, and this year he had an even better season. 11 sacks. He had that beautiful pick six against Dak Prescott.
Oh yeah,
23 QB hits is pretty good. Um, 15 tackles for loss is pretty good as well.
definitely not bad.
48 total. Yeah, so he had good numbers this year. Um, he's another like high motor guy. And I know he played on that Eagles D line, which is, fairly crazy. But I think, overall, he's shown that he's worthy of starting. He's a good player and obviously a top 10 hand in the ground
Oh, listen,
um,
I
defenseman.
agree. I didn't have my top 10. I have no gripes about it in the top 10. Like I said, he the him and Graham, the only reason they weren't top 10 is because of each other. Like
Mm.
you said, his Pro Bowl year last year was before Reddick showed up. And once Reddick showed up, like he had one side of that defensive line. Those other two, they had to figure out their rotation because he was never leaving the field.
I will
And
say, go
they
ahead.
balled, but in rotational, I like they helped each other so much, but it was hard because they're neither of them were really like 3 down starters. But I mean, they're both talented enough. I just think it,
Yeah.
it helped them and hurt them at the same time.
Yeah, I think what surprised me the most is when I went on after I made this list, then I go in on PFF and I kind of reorganize from there and see what some of the stats they had for their weird like metrics. And Sweat had really good numbers to compare, like top 10 in run defense and pass rush grades, top five in run stop rate. And so he's coming along nicely. And they locked him up on a good contract. So we'll see where that future goes for him.
Well, I like it. I have no gripes. Like I said, he definitely would have been in the top 10 if he played all the snaps, and Graham probably would have been in the same boat coming off a career year for him. So yeah, no issues there. Plus hometown bias, you can't go wrong. Go Birds. All right, this next one. So again, I'm proud of you, by the way. You really come a long way because you had a
Okay.
rookie in your top 10 who deserved it. I have a rookie at my number 8 spot who deserved it. We touched on it already. Obviously, the 3 interceptions, I think it was 9.5 sacks. I think he played really well. I think he came in on a defense that was disgustingly bad. Like there was no one around him to make better. Hate my Joey Bosa take, fine. But Joey Bosa played on the other side of Khalil Mack. He had an advantage. He just never showed up, but I still feel like he underperformed even when he was there. Aiden Hutchinson
Hmm.
played on defense with absolutely no one, and he was the best player on that entire defense as soon as he stepped in foot in the building. And if you ask me, did he play like the leader of that defense? I think from week one he did. So I was impressed. Obviously, he came in highly drafted. It was like 2 overall. But
Hmm.
he came in best player on that defense every single week and still played really well. I mean, nearly double-digit sacks, 3 interceptions, made plays constantly. So I think he had a great rookie year, and I think it's going to set him up for a big career. So I'm very high on him going forward. I think the Lions made some good pickups. I mean, they can't be worse than they were the year before. So I got Agent Hutchinson at number 8 here.
Nice. I like it. Um, let's see. So number eight from me. So this was a weird one because I wanted to put this player's teammate in my top 10, but his career is kind of uncertain right now, which is crazy because at a time he was the next prodigy to be the best defensive player in a while.
Hmm.
And he played, I think, like 7 or 8 games last year. This past season, he only played 3 games. And now apparently Washington might not even have him on the team to start the season in Chase Young. But his
Wow.
uh his teammate Montez Sweat, so I'm going with the back-to-back sweats in my list here.
Love it.
Um, Another really good player on that Washington defensive line. Uh, I think the numbers aren't going to really jump out at you. 8 sacks, 46 tackles, but 28 QB hits, 14 tackles for loss. Again, those are good production numbers. It helped disrupting the backfield and stuff like that. And played a full 17 games after last year he only played in 10. So I think coming up in his fifth year here, he's going to be another strong player and just continue to get better. And I think that that's one of the things you worry about when you're playing Washington is, Sweat, some of the other players on that line, and was it Allen and
Oh, he's
but
he's a baller. He is a very good player.
yeah,
I definitely agree with you there. I have no issue with that. Now, the only thing I will say is first, I Chase Young is not on my top 10 either.
okay,
Again,
good. I wasn't sure where you were
other
going with that.
otherworldly talent. I think Chase Young is incredibly talented. Granted,
Yeah.
he's got a smaller sample size than Joey Bosa, but
Hmm.
both have injury concerns. Both aren't on the field. Both are coming off a season where they haven't seen the field pretty much at all. So I
Hmm.
gave Bosa, the number 9 spot out of, credibility and, what he's done. Chase Young obviously hasn't done it and haven't seen it long enough to, get by off his name credibility. So that's why he's not in top 10. But I'm just saying, similar arguments, different players, but similar arguments. But yeah, no, I have no issue. You'll see Sweat on my list very shortly. But before we do that, going off of inconsistent, injured, constantly never playing DNs, I'm going to go to a guy that is the complete opposite. He's been
Okay.
nothing but consistent since he entered the league. He has been in the league for 12 years and has never
Mm.
missed a single game. And
Mm.
considering he plays, anyone that does that as a D lineman or an offensive lineman, like hats off to you, because that means you are just getting the shit beat out of you on a weekly basis, and you are still showing up every day for work. And the guy has been the literally the pinnacle of consistency. He's made the Pro Bowl 8 of the 12 years. Now he's made it 6 straight years. He just got off a Pro Bowl bid this year. He's obviously not the dominant player that he was before. His numbers are a little down, but this guy still shows up. He's still a baller. So I'm going to go with Cam Jordan,
Oh, okay.
Mr. 12-year veteran, never missed a game,
Yeah.
coming off 8.5 sacks. But when you need him, he's there. He's in the twilight years. I'm sure his career is going to start falling back a little bit, but the guy can play. He has been reliable, been consistent, been excellent every single year he's in there. So I think and you know what? I'll be the first to say this. I might have him too low on this list, but I'm going with the old reliable and Cam Jordan here.
Yeah, I think like you just said, Mr. Reliable. Said I mean I don't really like him on a personal level, but
But
he
personally,
phenomenal.
well, Cam Jordan, like I don't understand. Like I
He's
get it.
just
There's some
like
polarizing characters. Cam
he's just
Jordan. What's
very
that to hate about Cam Jordan?
I don't know. He's always very like cocky and I don't know, but he is a very good player. He's on my list too. But
Interesting take. I feel like most people like, when you say, "Oh, I can't stand this guy," like character or personality wise, like it's like someone that is like huge and everyone knows him. I don't think I can find if I ask 20 people off the street who Cam Jordan is, I guarantee you 18 of them wouldn't know who he is.
well, I guess I'm just different.
There you go.
But
That's one word for it.
speaking of different, here's a guy. I don't know if he's on your list to be honest. So we'll see.
Okay.
But I think he's still a little underrated. He actually was a former teammate of Mr. Cam Jordan.
Hmm.
Um, and he went over to the Cincinnati Bengals and played for them the
Ooh.
last 2 seasons, back-to-back Pro Bowler. Um, Numbers weren't phenomenal this year. 8 sacks, 24 QB hits is really good. 32 combined tackles. three forced fumbles, which is pretty good. But I
I
think
can I
beyond
just
anything,
can I just say only you would start something, well, his numbers are down for this year, and then go, well, 24 pressures, very good. You know, three forced fumbles, also very
well,
good.
his
And like
his
you have a talent in contradicting your own self. Sometimes
well
you don't even need me to do it.
the 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 tackles and the sacks are low, is what I meant. But everything else, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, it's great. Um, and I think beyond anything else, this man, Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals, was just a leader that Cincinnati Bengals defense needed, and he just, especially in the playoffs, he stepped up. He had that huge turnover against the Bills. I think it was the Bills, the fumble recovery. Um, and it took it all the
Oh
way
yeah.
back for a touchdown. Like he's a phenomenal leader for that defense and a really good young player. So Trey Hendrickson get some DN love from the Saints to the Bengals, and now he's doing his own thing. Because a lot of times you see those players get those big contracts off their playing with a good defense around them, and they fade out. But he's definitely living up to his contract so far. So
Oh no, listen, I do have him on my list. No complaints
oh,
there.
okay,
He is one of those guys. Like I feel like all the talking heads, the Barnwells, the Bill Simmons, all those football guys that know it and they like immediately grade and draft everyone and give you a whole bunch of numbers and stupid stuff about caps and all that.
hmm
I feel like when he signed with the Bengals, everyone was shitting on it. Like, this guy is
yeah,
a rotational
yep,
pass rusher, blah, 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 big money. And he has done nothing but ball out since he got there. So
absolutely.
good for him. I definitely have him on my list, but we'll get to him a little bit.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
my number six, it's a guy you actually already talked about. Can I take you back in the past a little bit?
How
So
far
I'm
back
gonna
we
bring
going?
you back. I'm gonna bring you back to 2020, a
Okay,
terrible time in the world, but the beginning of our podcast.
okay,
And he was our initial, actually no, but when our second rankings because it was his rookie season, and we
okay.
had him in our top 10 edge rushers, and you touched on it already. We had Chase Young was one of the best edge rushers in the league immediately.
hmm
And now let's fast forward to present day. What if I told you I have a Washington Redskins slash Commanders? That would be for another day conversation with your past self, but I have a D end, first round pick D end from the Washington Redskins slash Commanders in our
hmm
2023 top 10. You would immediately think it's Chase Young, right? Of
hmm
course you would. But we're going the other way. Chase Young, as I've already hit on, didn't make the list. It's kind of amazing how quickly things have changed for him.
Excuse me.
But going off that, the Redskins or Commanders are so lucky because they've stumbled into a guy at
Oh,
number 26 overall the year before who makes the debacle that Chase Young is becoming a lot easier to stomach. So I went with Montez Sweat as my number 60 end. I think he is one of the best. I think you could make an argument for it, and I wouldn't hate it. The best run stopping D end. Plays on an incredible defense line, but he's a baller in the run game, and he still put
hmm
up top 10 pass rush numbers with PFF. Does both avenues, but I think he's a guy that's getting better. He's a guy who's definitely ceiling hasn't hit yet. He's been really good since he got there. Scary to think, but yeah, I went with
yeah.
Montez Sweat, who I think is becoming what we all think Chase Young was going to be.
Wow. I'm genuinely surprised by your list so far because both Hendrickson and Sweat I thought were, gambles. I didn't know if either were going to be on your list, and they're higher on yours than they are mine. So look at that. Same with Aiden
Oh,
Hutchinson.
bro, hey, listen, I'm always on top. When you brought out agent, when you went with a rookie in the top 10, I was immediately stunned. I was like, "Oh shit, this year is going to be off the cuff. I can't guarantee anything." But no, I mean it's listen, Sweat, it kills me, but he plays well, and I got to give him credit because the Chase Young thing would definitely be a bigger story if it wasn't for the fact that him, and not just him, because Darren Payne and Jonathan Allen are really good. It would be a bigger story if it wasn't for the fact that these other picks that they drafted in the first round have all turned out really well. The one
Hmm.
like guarantee is the one that no one can count on. The other three first round picks have been awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was your number six, right?
Correct.
Okay. So my number six, a guy you kind of just touched on a little bit. Like you said, eight-time Pro Bowler, one-time All-Pro, but also was on the 2010s Hall of Fame team.
Oh,
Mr. Cameron Jordan of the
oh,
New Orleans Saints. Yeah, I mean, 115 career sacks, yeah, 400 plus solo tackles, over 192 games played. Like he's the kind of consistency, very Brandon Graham-esque. Graham doesn't have the same numbers, but it's like a leader of your defensive line that pushes the other players to be better and is always consistent, always playing with full motor, full heart, trying to make a play. Um, I mean, I think you made a lot of good points on him, so I'm not going to really waste too much time.
I
But
usually do. Hats off
yeah, I
to you,
think
though. I did not mention the all-decade team. That was good on your research.
yeah. Oh, I mean, I come with the facts too, so don't worry.
Of course.
But
Yeah, when don't you?
yeah, like you said though, last year was a bit of a down year, and it's he's never had super high sack numbers. I think 2019 he had 15 and a half, which was his career high, but he's always in that like 7 to 11, 12 range. But it's beyond that. He does a lot of. He's a leader. He's always around the ball. So good player, and he'll be in that Saints Hall of Fame for the future.
Oh, for
So
sure. Yeah, oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. No doubt there at all. Nice. Well, listen, I have no arguments at all there. I
okay.
yeah, obviously have gotten into him plenty.
Now
Um,
before you go any
Go
farther
on.
into the top five, all right,
Okay.
I know I'm going to go on a limb and say I know who all your five players are, but
Well, I don't know if that's really going on a limb, but sure.
the order is what I'm curious about. So
Yeah, well, you know what? Buckle up, baby. We're not done yet.
okay. Roll right in then. Top number five here. What we got?
So I'm gonna admit, I'm gonna preface this with I'm a
Preface?
very what have you yeah, you heard it. I'm a very what have you done for me lately kind of guy.
That sounds like
I
me. I
know.
know it. Yeah. Yeah.
No. You want to, if they didn't do anything 5 years ago, that means nothing
Oh,
to
what
you.
have you been doing for me? Just go,
So
just go.
I started the top 10, going on a tirade about how Joey Bosa, elite talent, never around, injury concerns, blah, 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 blah.
Uh-huh.
But I'm going to go and start off my top five with another DN, veteran guy who also has a ton of injury concerns.
Oh.
But to be fair to him, he came out and balled this year. He played every game after missing nearly a year and a half of football. He
Hmm.
showed up, played every game, and balled it out like he normally does. He had just, came out with pass rushing excellence. I think he was right around double digit sacks. He had 12 tackles for loss, and he was a big impact player that we always know he is. Um, Led the league, or was sixth most at his position with quarterback pressures. So I'm going to go with the guy constantly hurt, but he balled out this year. So sorry, Joe Bosa. The criteria changes year to year. I'm going Daniel Hunter.
Oh, look at that.
I know.
The first same pick. I also have Daniel Hunter at number
Wow,
five.
really? Okay, look at
Yeah.
that. Great minds think
Yeah.
alike, as we know. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand I'm being a little hypocritical because the same thing I used against Joey Bosa, I'm kind of using for Daniel Hunter. But this is what happens.
Oh,
It's year to year
I
business.
mean, beyond his what we have, his rookie year he played 14, then he played like 16 games for a couple years. It's really only the year before he missed, 7 games.
Well, he missed the
But
entire 2020 season, but yeah,
oh, that too, yeah. That's probably why that's
yeah,
blank on
minus
this
that one. I
stat
guess we'll
sheet.
just erase that one out of the way. Yeah,
I don't know why they wouldn't include this on the stats I'm looking at. It just
because
goes
he didn't
2019
play.
to 21.
Because he
But
didn't play. He hit as much in stats as me and you did that year.
oh, that's nice. Cool. But yeah, like you said, uh 10 and a half sacks this year. I mean, the 22 QB hits is good. Anything over 20 is actually really good for a defensive end, especially one that's hands in the ground because, the edge rushers at least or the outside backers who kind of get better vision and they can get a better, view of the play, what's going on. But yeah, I think
Listen, he's going.
it'll be interesting to see without, Zadarius Smith is now in Cleveland. So it's the him show over there, and Minnesota, so we'll see how he does. But
But you know what? Before Zadarius Smith was there, he was always really
that's
good.
true.
He's
That's true.
always been super talented. He's in very much the same debate as Joey Bosa because if Joey Bosa played last year, he would be at this number 5 spot.
Kind of
It's
weird that
just
he's been in the league since 2015.
well,
I
when
feel
you
like
miss a
he's
year and a
younger than
half, it
that.
feels well, yeah. When you miss a year and a half, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, that's true. But I
But the
mean,
guy's
he
super
was
talented. I mean, he's been
yeah,
on some bad Vikings teams and he still shows up.
yeah. And he made the Pro Bowl this year. Was on the ballot for comeback player of the year. So
Resurgent,
good
it
good
really
player.
is.
Yeah,
He said elite talent, but availability is what really makes or breaks players like this. Players that, they're not always there, but when they're there, they're there. But listen, he's on the right side of this argument this time.
yeah.
So I'll lead right in. We started off top 5. I'm going to read right into a guy you already mentioned, but I'm going to bring him up
Okay,
again.
okay. So
You're going
our
to go
top
with your
three is
boy
the same. I like that.
well, of course, our boy Trey Henderson from the
Hmm.
Cincinnati Bengals.
Nice. I like that's I like the respect. I like having him that high. That's he
Oh,
deserves
he
it.
deserved it. I
Yeah.
like him. I kind of root for the guys when they sign big
Good player.
deals and you
Good
immediately
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know what, we're not doing the wide receiver episode now, but I feel like this is overdue, and I'm a honorable man. I can eat my words when I'm wrong. I remember I think I went on like a 20-minute tirade about how I could have burned money and it would have been a better use of it than giving Christian Kirk $18 million a year. But listen, balled out. He
He
did
did
really
ball
well.
out.
I still would debate about how much money he plays, but I listen, no arguments. He deserved the contract. Trey
Jags offense
Henderson,
was nice.
same kind of guy, same kind of guy. Because when he signed in, I don't know, 2019 or whatever year it was, he was the guy like, are you insane? This is going to age terribly. And
Yeah.
it really hasn't. He's gotten better every single year. Take these grades for what you want, but he's improved his pass rush PFF grade every single year since he got to the
Hmm.
Bengals. He was fourth most with quarterback hits, and his quarterback pressure rate was at 17%, which was eighth in the league. So definitely great to see. I mean, he's an impact defender on a very good team. I would say he's probably the leader, especially now that Jesse Bates is off on doing different things. But yeah, so I'm gonna go with a guy that I root for these guys that sign these big contracts and immediately get criticized before they ever show up. And don't get me wrong, I'm usually one of those people that immediately shoots it down. Shout out Christian Kirk. I'm sorry about it, but he really is balled out. So he's in my number 4
Hmm.
spot.
All right. I like it. So my number four, player that's been in the league, a couple years now, came in 2016. He's four-time Pro Bowler. He's a AP Defensive Rookie of the Year. Um,
Wow, wow,
but
really? Go on, go
someone
on. I'll
made
bite my tongue.
someone someone made a valid point. If you look at the games played last, since his career started, we have 12,
Pretty
16,
important.
7,
Can't make plays if you're
16,
not there.
12, 16, and then 5 last year.
Mhm.
Um, Mr. Joey Bosa. But while, I just you can't deny the talent though. Like when he's healthy, he is one of the top defenders in the league on the field. So I think he'll get right. I think he needs to kind of mature a little bit, like you said, the whole like slamming his helmet during the playoff game and stuff, and throwing a little temper tantrum.
There's no other way
Um,
to categorize it. And, that season was a complete default, but
yeah, I mean it was a wash of a year for him, but when you hurt all season, it's hard to kind of evaluate. But I guess when you hurt all career too. But I think he'll be
listen, you're
recover
debating
fine.
yourself at this point. A wash of a season last year does definitely not get you in the top 5 on my list. I mean,
Yeah,
I know you're the other way because the first thing you brought up was his defensive rookie of the year in what 2016. That was 7 years
I
ago.
was just
But
I was just reading off accolades. I
oh
mean, he
yeah,
made the
just throwing
Pro
it out there.
Bowl.
Yeah,
He made the Pro Bowl in 2021. What are you going to tell me?
that
That
was
was
2 years
only
ago.
and he didn't play
Yeah,
last year. So if he had played 2019, 2020, 2021, 3 straight Pro Bowls. The one year that he missed the most games and only played what 4 games. He obviously no Pro Bowl. There's not enough stats or anything. I think if he plays another full year, he's going to make the Pro Bowl again because he's that
so
talented of
wait,
a player.
hold on,
So
hold on, hold on, hold on. So
I'm
correct
holding.
me if I'm wrong. Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
You're usually wrong.
Where was, because assuming this top three is going to shake out the way we think it is, where is Daniel Hunter on your list?
He was number 5.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so you have, but you my point being more this two elite talents. Flip a coin. I think they're on the same
I
level.
don't.
Hunter's
I
got a
think.
three. Hunter, listen, Hunter's a three Pro Bowl kind of guy, but I took the guy coming off a very good year instead of the guy coming off a very injured year. Elite talents, I think, as a general rule of thumb, I use elite talents when they're injured, coming off an injured year, they find themselves in the bottom five. Elite talents that are very injured, if they're coming off a good year when they're healthy, find themselves in the top five.
So you're. I'm being a little more optimistic than you, which is also strange because usually it's the other way around.
Well, you're just
But
living off his rookie of the year 7 years ago.
I'll bring up Derwin James again. When you had him in your top 10, you said this guy's injury prone. He can't stay healthy. He's not. It's not going to
Well,
be a.
it doesn't surprise
And
me
now
because
he's
you live in the
arguably a
past.
top 1 or 2 safety in the NFL. But
Oh, listen, that was a long time ago.
okay. Anyways, so yeah, that's
I'm just saying, we have two players. I mean, disagree or whatever, but they're right around the same level of skill. You can put them whatever order you want, but they're around the same level
sure.
of player with
Sure.
injury concerns. One's coming off a very good year, the other one's coming off a very bad year.
Hmm.
That alone would just bump the other guy ahead of the other one.
Okay.
But this is how we work. We look at rookie of the year kind of awards instead of what you did last year. But I digress. All right, rolling
Crack
into the
open the
top
top
three.
three. Yeah, let's see how these shake out.
So I'm gonna go with a guy. Now let me tell you
Okay.
this. Let's go back a couple years because I know you live in the past and you love the past. Let's go
Hit
back
me.
to the days of old when Mike Mayock and John Gruden were running the Raiders.
Mm,
Those days, let's say, were sketchy at best.
they were interesting.
Now,
That's for sure.
yeah, the interesting, is definitely the right way to go with that. So let's go back to the 2019 draft class in particular.
Okay.
I want to say correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was the first year that Gruden and Mayock had a draft class together,
Sure.
and they had three first round picks, if I'm correct,
Sure.
around there. Either or, they had three first round picks. Used it on
Oh,
two
is this
guys
the
that are no
collegiate?
longer on the yeah, two
Was
guys that
this?
are no longer
Yeah.
on the team. One guy that they declined to pick up his option, who went and had led the league in rushing, but that's another time, another story. The only player on all those terrible first round picks, let's talk about Damien Arnett, who at this point I wouldn't be surprised is in
Who?
jail. Alex Leatherwood, who I don't know where the hell he is. Cleveland Farrell, again, I don't know where he is. Jonathan
Cleveland
Abram, I don't know
Farrell.
where he is either. These are
Farrell was
guys I
probably
don't
one of
think
the
are.
most. That was one of the most head scratching picks I've ever seen in my life.
I don't know. Arnett and Leatherwood. Leatherwood, I'll give a pass because he played for
Farrell
Alabama. Arnett
Farrell
really
was taken
surprised me.
like Farrell was taken like number 5 overall, wasn't he?
Four overall. Yeah, you're right.
4 overall. He was. I don't
But
think he was even supposed to go in the first round. Like,
amazing, amazing. Mike Mayock and Jonathan Gruden had five first round picks combined together. One of them is actually still on the team, and he, argued, and they declined his 5th year option. But I'll give credit to these two buffoons. They picked up a gem, and I think it was the 5th round in that
hmm,
2019 draft class. They picked Cleveland Farrell 4th overall, and suddenly, my number 3 pass rushers came in that same draft class 5 rounds later. So while these two buffoons clearly don't know what to do in the first round, they found a gem in the 5th. So give them credit for what you want, but Mad Max is a
Mad Max
nasty dude.
Crosby. I love
Oh,
him.
he's a player, and you know what? He's a guy you root for. He's one he's one you have to root for. I like his story, and he's durable. He's the
Oh
only
yeah.
defense lineman last year that played over 1,000 snaps. And I already hit on this. Defense and offensive lineman, you are beating the shit out of each other every snap, and he did that over 1,000 times last year. He had a 90 plus PFF pass rush grade. Again, take it with what you want. 12 and a half sacks, 81 pressures, plays well in the run too. This guy is complete, and he came out of nowhere. Like I said, Farrell, 4th overall pick in the same draft class to the same team. Him in the 5th or 4th round, whatever it was, and he is the baller. So while they couldn't save their life picking the first round, they hit on a gem in the fifth. And Max Crosby is, if Mike Mayock ever gets a job as an NFL draft personality like he was before he took the GM job, it's only because of Max Crosby. So I'm gonna go Crosby is my number three.
Yeah, same. Max Crosby's my number three as well. I will say though, I think I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true or someone made it up, but apparently Mike Mayock wasn't allowed to be in charge of the first like 2 or 3 rounds, and he did all the like 4 to 7 round picks, and it was
Oh
all
boy,
proven.
this like I said, this is
I
the
don't know.
PR train already. I drafted Max Crosby in the fifth round. I should get another job at NFL Network. There, I can already see it.
Fair.
Mike Mayock, NFL GM for X amount of years, drafted Max Crosby in the fifth round.
I mean, it was weird. Not to get off on a tangent here, but it was weird that he was such a like intelligent draft analyst. Like I loved listening to whatever he had to say. And then he
I
just
agree.
goes
Yeah.
and does very questionable things with the Raiders. So I don't know, but that's another
I
story.
listen. I wouldn't argue against what you're saying or the story that's coming out because you would almost think, oh, let's just hire a GM that is a name and makes us look smart, and then not let him
Mm,
do anything.
yeah,
But at the same time, like when you have 5 first round picks in 3 year span that all suck and are out of the league, besides one who's you decline the option on, it's hard to give a pass to the GM, even if he's not allowed to take those picks. It's hard to
yeah.
give him a pass.
But I will say, they just drafted Tyree Wilson for an edge rusher with Max Crosby, with Chandler Jones, hopefully healthy and not getting 4 sacks and disappearing all year. Um,
Hmm.
that could be a really good D line, like a nice. Raiders always have potential. They have talent. It's just so spread out, and the coaching is always revolving. So we'll see. We'll
Team I'll
see what
never
they do.
understand. That's a team
No,
I'll never
no,
understand.
no. They're a cesspool of a franchise right now. But
They're
oh
just
well.
they're like their best period of time, like all those homegrown drafted talents, Carr, Cooper, Mack. I feel like they blew it up well before, way before they should have. And then
Hmm.
they got all these draft picks for those players and just fucked it all up. They just did terrible with all those picks. And now they're slowly starting to get all those big names again and still don't do anything.
Yeah. I will say before we move on to the top two, I don't know if you mentioned it, but he's the only um, defensive lineman in the entire NFL last year who played more than 1,000 snaps. And
Oh, I did. Come on now.
oh, he
Take
did.
the earwax out of your ears. Yeah, you touched on this point.
Okay,
Come on now.
just
Like I
just
said,
reiterating the craziness of that stat. But
oh, I agree. Listen, offensive line,
yeah,
defensive line, they beat the shit out of each other every snap. He did it 1,000
yeah,
times. The only one to do it.
yeah, yeah.
Would you sign up
But
for 1,000 beatings? I wouldn't. I mean, no, I would not.
no, no. But yeah, like you said, he's got a cool story. Got sobered up and then turned into one of the third best defensive end by Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks. So there you go.
That's a
Quite the
legit honor
honor.
right there. Oh, that's legit.
Start giving out awards. Send them to him.
All right, so we're obviously we knew. I mean, I think we knew going into this our top two were going to be the same.
Well,
But
I think I think our order's different, but we'll
to
see.
be honest, this is like we usually when we get to the top, like I want to say two for sure, three most of
Yeah.
the time. Yeah, we know exactly how it's going to go. We know the order. This
Hmm.
one, I honestly think is a coin toss. I knew we would have the
Yeah.
same players. I didn't know what order we would have them in, so I'm curious. So and part of me thinks we have the same order.
I don't.
So I'm gonna go with at number two,
Okay.
he had 18 and a half sacks and the defensive player of the year, but he still came
Wow.
in at number two for me.
Oh my God, look at you. I'm proud of you.
I see that's why I thought we were gonna have the same one.
Yep.
Because you
I
know
have
what? I
I
mean,
have them too.
like I said, take well, I mean, 16 sacks is nothing to, sniff your nose at. I know he
Oh
didn't
no,
lead the
no, no.
league, but 16 sacks isn't just, showing up and doing nothing.
Yeah.
But, I'll cover them both. But, Garrett, if take the PFF grades if you want, he was the best pass rush rate grade in the league. The second year he's done it, to be honest. And he was he had the most, wins above replacement right behind Mad Max that we were talking about. He's got all the numbers. Like him and Bosa, pretty much you could stack up awards. Bosa's got the sacks and the defense player of the year. Well, Garrett's got the PFF grade and the 16 sacks, blah 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 blah. But this was the decider for me. Look at the team that Bosa was playing with.
Yep.
Top
Yep.
to bottom, that defense was just something else. And and my favorite head coaching candidate this year was D'Amico Ryans, and I really think he's a great coach.
Yeah, I love
And I
D'Amico.
can't underestimate that enough. But Myles Garrett, like this dude clocks in and clocks out, and he's elite every time he shows up. His
Hmm.
talk about supporting cast. Javion Clowney threw a hissy fit because how great Myles Garrett was, and he wasn't getting enough publicity. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, the team wants him to be the best player ever. No, no, buddy, he just is, and you suck. This is the thing, You're not helping him. Don't get
Mm.
shitting on this guy because he's not helping you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could flip a coin. I wouldn't have been mad either way. But I still think, listen, I mean, when you're on top of the pyramid, like Myles Garrett, I think was our unanimous number one last year. Unless you do something to get knocked off, Bosa came up clutch, but as far as I know, Garrett gave me no reason to take him off the top spot. Bosa made a good argument, and I still think
Yeah.
he's very good, but let's not act like Myles Garrett couldn't win Defense Play of the Year next year or lead the league in sacks next year.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty guilty of you've yelled at me before and saying, "Oh, well, he plays on a great team, so that's a knock on him." But
You're
I
right.
agree with what you're saying, which, there's been a little too much agreeing on this first top 10 episode of the year. So I don't know how I
Listen, it
feel
took
about
me
that,
4 years, but you're finally getting on to the parallels of me.
the Tim master classes are finally paying off.
Think about time, man.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, he reigning defensive player of the year, 18 and a half sacks is again still impressive no matter who's on your team. Um, I think he led the league in pressures with 90, second highest win rate against the
Yeah.
offensive lineman, third highest pass rush grade from PFF. Yeah, he's just all around, top run defender as well. He's a great player. I mean, you look at all the intangibles and, big, strong, tall, fast. He's just built to be a great player, and hopefully his body will handle it, unlike his brother. But
Well, yeah.
um,
Well, he's already
I
got, I
think
mean, he has some injury concerns too,
I
but
think I would be bold enough to say even in Nick Bosa's rookie year, I think he already surpassed Joey Bosa in talent.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, like he's a he's a good player. Little questionable. I still hear things about him being a little racist, but that's neither here nor
I
there, I
don't know where
guess,
you're
right now.
hearing this.
But
I don't know what sources you have, but yeah, I remember you mentioned that. But I mean,
yeah.
listen, personal issues or whatever behind, I don't know. But if you look at the numbers, forced fumbles, they both had two. Sacks, we already hit on this. Both had 18 and a half. Garrett had 16.
Hmm.
Quarterback hit, or no, tackles for loss. Both had 19. Garrett had 18. Like, I get it. Like, the Bosa, like, leans to the bad numbers, but they're right there. And if you factor in, like, the Niners had an elite offense almost all year. They were scoring points. Bosa had chances to go rush the passer. Garrett's team sucked. They had Jacoby
Yeah.
Brissett for like 11 games of the year. He wasn't in the same situation. He didn't have like the talent around him that, Bosa does. And if I'm starting my team tomorrow, I think I'm taking Garrett over Bosa. Even though Bosa's younger, I just think Garrett is better and consistently better. Like they both were drafted very high and both were immediately really good, but I think Garrett, since he's gotten the league, has never been anything but elite.
Yeah. And I think so. So without further ado, we can move on to our number one. Number one defensive end heading into the 2023 season, presented by Post-Fades Cheesesteaks, Mr. Myles Garrett of the Cleveland Browns. I don't know why I just blanked on their name. Um, yeah, four-time Pro Bowler, two-time All-Pro. He's just been. I think last year I called him a Greek god because he's literally unstoppable. Um,
Hmm.
I would say he's in that Aaron Donald tier where if you don't have at least two people on him or someone else to back up whoever's blocking him, you're gonna have a long day. So he's, superhuman, Bigfoot type player. Um, and
Bigfoot.
I will say,
Okay.
I will,
Interesting take.
I will say one thing about a lot of the stats we bring up, like forced fumbles, for example. Some of these players only get like, 1 to 3, which sounds like not a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, one fumble could change. I mean, we saw in the Super Bowl, one fumble changed, the entire game pretty much.
Unfortunately.
Um, yeah, so I think those kind of numbers are all kind of indicative of like time and place and like getting the pressures on the quarterback and being effective in run stopping and stuff. So, but yeah, so Myles Garrett, um, tied with I think Hassan Reddick and him were tied for second in sacks this year. So, but yeah, when you're back to back All Pro, 2020, 2021, and then just you know barely All Pro this year, yeah. But no, let's just say he's self-explanatory. Everybody knows that Myles Garrett's one of the best, so I don't really have much more to add to that. But I think overall it's a good list.
Yeah.
Very surprised about the Joey Bosa, but I understand your points. My opinion
Listen,
is
I
that I
don't live
think
in
he'll
the
come in.
past. Yeah, I don't live in the past. He doesn't get in
I
the
don't.
top five because he won the Defensive Rookie of the Year 7 years ago.
I'm. I just think he'll have the whole off season to recover. And he was healthy enough to play in the playoffs, so I'm assuming he'll be good to go. So
I just
we'll
think, I
see.
mean, listen, like I make my point. You live with the Defensive Rookie of the Year awards and all that. The guys I had ahead of him
I was just
are gonna
mentioning
have
it.
I see as having a better year next year. And that's what we do. We go into the next year. Those are guys that until I see Bosa be consistent. Bosa is the epitome of the Chargers. Big name, big player, in times when they want to be special. But outside of that, they really don't do anything.
Mm,
They really what is the Joey Bosa legacy gonna mean? I would say that his slamming of the helmet and throwing a temper tantrum is probably like the most defining moment of his career in a big in sad way. But what else has
yeah.
he done? I know, and listen, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's got a lot of
Mm,
Pro Bowls, a lot of All Pros, but he's very inconsistent with injuries. And unfortunately, this team just underperforms. And it had a bad moment in a horrible loss. And I think that defines his legacy a little too much for where he is now. So I put him in the top 10. I admittedly, he's a top five talent. He's been in my top five before, but this is not the year that he's going to make the top five.
interesting. Well, we'll see. I am surprised. Overall, our player rankings were like within the same realms. Maybe Trey Hendrickson was well 5 to 7, and then oh no, you had him at 4, right? So he was probably
Yes.
the biggest jump on the list for the two of us. But I think we had all the same players, did we not? Oh no, Josh Sweat was on mine. Who'd you have in place of Josh Sweat?
I had Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips. Okay. Yeah, I dabble with Jalen Phillips, but I wasn't sure if he was an edge rusher or not. So it is what it is.
Fair
But
enough.
I
Well,
do like his potential.
I'm skirting the rules. That's how it goes.
Fair enough. All right. I think it was a great
Well, my
episode,
friend,
and
till the next time.
yeah, next time we'll do recap. We'll do the edge rushers. So we'll get the whole defensive ends, defensive edge rushers, and outside backers, whatever. So complete
Very
that
odd. It
list.
comes
But
down to hand and ground or hand off the ground.
are you standing? Or are you like what are you doing here? But
Well, there we go. Well, till next time.
all right, take care.
Peace.
Peace.